Welcome, everyone, to RB1: a fantasy football podcast, part of the Fake Teams podcast channel. I am the loather of the Blind Zebra Confederation of the NFL, eyewitness to N'Keal Harry not stepping out of bounds, the Patriots cameraman who was caught filming the Bengals sideline, your ambivalent host, Pete Rogers. And I am joined by some of the guys. We have Jimmy Graham's cornhole partner, the captain of the Jameis Winston is Peyton Manning bandwagon, and the coach whisperer, the wine sipperer, the Will Disleyer, the weatherman Jordan Smith, and born and raised fan of the best team in the NFL, Jimmy G's smile makes him melt, and he hates donkeys more than life itself, the ginger normal man, Nick Bodiford. Guys, how we doing?
Really good.
Good, man.
Good.
How are you?
I am ecstatic. There is nothing that brings me more joy in the world than the Patriots coming off of a loss and entering another created scandal. It is the truly greatest place to be in as a Patriots fan. It is my element.
I mean, this is just next level whiteboard material going on right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is all a fully manufactured thing by the league, and they knew Cincinnati would fall for it just to get their team hyped up for the next couple of weeks.
Well, right. This is the motivation we need to go on our crazy Super Bowl run.
Forgive my inability to understand sarcasm. Do we actually think they didn't do this?
No. I think that Belichick would be an idiot to do this again.
I think like a couple people reported like an hour after Shefty dropped that the Bengals were aware that there was going to be some filming for this documentary in their press box, but like
they were there to film the Browns.
Communication.
Yeah, they talked to the Browns too, I guess. Or the Browns is the team that there's always been referenced, not the Bengals. But anyways, but yes, that this was filmed for a documentary. And
surprise, the mom and pop shop Cincinnati Bengals had poor communication about what was going on in their stadium.
Oh, that's hilarious. I was like, yeah, no, I mean, they're probably just fucking filming, and props to them. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. I have no issue with this.
I love it. I love it.
It was just the early beginning of the Festivus season. Like, people just used it as a chance to air their Patriots grievances, like one last time. Just like, let it all out. We remember. My
favorite thing about it is that it lasted 30 minutes. It was just like Shefty sent out the report, and all of Patriots beat media was like, no, this is nothing. Here is what we have been told. This is nothing. And yet somehow I check my phone 4 hours later and it's still being talked about.
I love when this shit happens, because it's like, I got a buddy the other day who was trying to tell me, he was like, I just, with the whole Deflategate thing, we'll just never know how good this team actually is because of their cheating. It's like, did that teach Tom Brady pre-game planning? Did Deflating Football teach him pocket aware? Like, get the fuck out of here. Stop it. And they're like, they're just cheaters, man. You're like, you're a Seattle Seahawks fan. Pete Carroll has been penalized every year of his Seattle tenure for hosting extra practices in pads. Like, this cheats nonstop. And again, we've talked about it on here before, but like, Richard Sherman and the entire defense.
Oh, we're all taking steroids.
Their A samples and then their B samples were all somehow like basically just unscrewed and spilled all over each other. And it's like, oh no, they've all been diluted. We can't trust it. Like, get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? Every team in this league cheats as much as they possibly. I mean, even having a salary cap is effectively cheating because you're decapping your competition. But anyway, the whole this entire premise, anyway, is just such horseshit. I have no issue. I think it'd be hysterical if the Patriots are like, yeah, we tried to film a thing.
Yeah, no, yeah, we definitely did film it. Like, we definitely tried to cheat. You guys got us. Hey, good for you guys. Good on you, Bengals. Oh man. Well, I'm glad that this brings as much joy to Nick as it does to me. I think it's just absolutely hilarious.
It's also like, if they're going to cheat, then they did it like a week too late. Like, they're filming the wrong team. Come on. I can't believe they're just trying to get an easy win against the Bengals when all they have to do is get off the plane.
Which is maybe why they were cheating against the Bengals, because they know it's the perfect crime, because no one's going to believe them. If they were like caught filming their documentary before the Chiefs game, everyone would be like, oh my God, they're 100% cheating because it's the Chiefs. But since they're doing it before the Bengals game, everyone's like, oh, come on, they're not actually cheating. It's the Bengals. You don't need to cheat to beat the Bengals. And Belichick's like, this is perfect. I am cheating to beat the Bengals. All right. Well, we are off to a rocking start. Let's get into Week 14 action, because there is a lot to get to. We're going to start with Week 14 fantasy MVPs. Nick, start us off. Who is your fantasy MVP for the week?
Mine's Austin Eckler. He's still really, really highly owned. In Yahoo leagues, he's over 90%. This dude just has been a stud no matter what the situation was all year long. If you drafted a little bit early, you were getting him super late. And even if you drafted like in August, like a wimp, you got him like a 5th or 6th round latest. Like the dude, he was the overall RB1 scorer in half point PPR this week. He's so friggin' talented. And the one thing that the offense has done well in their scheming is setting things up to pass to running backs. And you're getting crazy production from this guy every single week, and he's doing it as the backup. It's just so cool.
Yeah, I love it. It crushes me to see Austin Eckler succeed, because I traded him away once Melvin Gordon came back, because I was like, all right, well, this is where the Chargers don't know what they're doing, and we are going to Melvin Gordon's going to step all over Eckler's fantasy value, and that has not come to fruition. Eckler has been fantastic, to the point where, I mean, he has to be considered a top, 10? Is that too much? A top 10 back next year in redraft leagues?
Depends on where he is and where Gordon is. I mean, aren't they both in their final year of their deal?
They might be. Eckler, yeah. No, I think you might be right. Because I know in my Madden franchise, Austin Eckler was a free agent after the first year. So trust those contracts.
I'm checking it out right now. But Jordan, you got anything you want to chime in with these guys? With Eckler and such?
Just note to all the NFL professional sports agents that listen to the podcast, before you advise your running back client to hold out, do a better job at scouting the running back stable in his team, possible competition. Just give it a look over and see if there's anything in there, because Austin Eckler is just as good, if not better, on some occasions. So,
especially, go ahead.
He is a free agent after this season. That's so awesome. Oh my God, dude, this running back. Bank. He's going to get $3 million next year.
Giggity. Break that bank. Eckler's he's thriving right now, and he's the perfect back for today's like pass happy offense. Like, could you imagine him going to imagine him in like Kansas City or
would be perfect.
Him in Kansas City would be sexy as hell. He would be a top 10 fantasy running back next year if he went to Kansas City.
Props to the Patriots guy for not saying the Patriots, because he would be perfect for them, obviously, but you went with a different team, and right on. Good for you, man. Do you guys think that the Chargers are going to continue being donkeys and actually now pay Melvin Gordon?
No.
How funny would that be?
I say yes.
They just open up the bank. They bring in the bank, and they're just like, all right, you know what? Actually, you proved your worth, Melvin Gordon. Good on you.
I think they want to extend like Phillip Rivers, or at least keep him along until he retires. So they're just going to be like, we should probably keep Melvin Gordon too, because they'll think that'll elongate Phillip Rivers' career.
Dude, he needs to retire today. Get Tyrod in there. That'd be so cool if Tyrod Taylor took over next year.
Easton Stick.
He's a fun interview. Anyway, let's move it along. I appreciate all the time on my player, you guys, but let's move it along.
I like Nick's guys, we're going to talk about me, but we got to move on, but keep talking about me. Jordan,
enough about me. Why don't you talk about me?
Who's your MVP for the week?
My MVP is one Ryan Tannehill. Just wanted to shout him out for bouncing back against the Oakland Raiders, dropping 31-ish, 32 points. he's just been like on a tear, and it's kind of unbelievable with what he's doing. He had nearly 400 yards yesterday, only had 6 incompletions. While he did throw an interception, he wants to do his best to help erase that mistake by just laying out perfect form tackles on guys that have like
that tackle was incredible.
It was a great tackle. He's really laid himself out there. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt next time he attempts that. But Ryan Tannehill, man, he's been really solid. And he's like got the Ryan Fitzpatrick suddenly coming out of nowhere, dropping 30 fantasy points a game thing. But with Tannehill, I feel like he's not going to give you just a couple games and then fall off a cliff like Tannehill does usually, or Fitzpatrick does. So yeah, Ryan Tannehill.
Oh yeah,
so I'm super into this. He's been super fun to rank in the quarterback rankings. They are talking about extending him. We talked last week on the podcast about we thought that they would franchise him. They're apparently talking long-term contract, which I don't think I
do
like.
it.
I think
Tennessee.
you gotta
31.
Do it, Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, if they can get like a team-friendly thing, I'd be into it. But you need a lot of stuff that Michael Lombardi says, like, dude, I get it. You watch the fucking Sopranos, but his thing that he learned with the Patriots is it takes 20 games to evaluate a player in your system, and that's so that's not just a Lombardiism, that's a Belichickism. I think that if they were to franchise him and get those 20 games under their belt with him, and really understand what it is they have in him, that would be a much smarter move than just paying this guy who basically like flunked his way out of the place before. Makes me nervous. But that being said, he's been a treat to watch this year, and I'll keep ranking him highly.
The franchise tag would make him pretty expensive for the year, but it's like the trade-off is super expensive for a year if you think he's the guy and you might be close, or pay him $20 million a year for the next couple of years and just be stuck with a large sunk cost on your books.
Exactly. You're signing up for like the future of the coaching staff if you extend him long term. You're committing to like 4 years basically of Tannehill, and you don't quite know what you have in Tannehill at the moment. So I don't know.
It'll be a running theme of our off-season podcasts. We'll spend way too much time talking about Tannehill and where he's going to play in 2020, because he's probably the number 1 free agent this year. Let's be honest.
It's good because his last name is very nicknameable.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to
plenty
work
of good
with
nicknames.
Tannehill.
Tannehill.
There's a lot there to work with. My fantasy MVP for week 14, going to give some love to Jason Sanders, the kicker for the Miami Dolphins. He scored or threw a touchdown last week, and then this week kicked 7 field goals and outscores Derrick Henry, Raheem Mostert, Jacoby Brissett, Ezekiel Elliott, Lamar Jackson. Who else is on this list? Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, Robert Woods. Basically he is the 14th player this week in fantasy, according to Yahoo, which is a hell of a thing to have for a kicker. And maybe he helped no one, but God damn it. If you're going to score 23 points as a kicker, you got to win the fantasy MVP.
This box score is the craziest. I didn't know what you were talking about.
Absolutely absurd. It's incredible.
It's hilarious. From the second quarter, oh my God, it's just Jason Sanders kicked a blank field goal. Jason Sanders kicked a blank. God, wow, good for him. All right.
Yeah.
Hot waiver wire ad for the championship week. Will Devante Parker's injury, concussion, nuke Sanders' value? Stay tuned.
Look at that.
Dang, he had 8 attempts.
Pretty
Kickers
good.
I love in redraft leagues. Kickers that play half their games in a dome, and kickers that are on bad teams, because usually the bad teams can get close, but they're not getting in the end zone, which is the Miami Dolphins.
Which is case in point, the Miami Dolphins. So there you go. Those are our Week 14 fantasy MVPs. But there was much more to come out of Week 14 than just a phenomenal kicking performance and Ryan Tannehill set to make millions of dollars. A lot of big name injuries went down this week, and right in the heart of fantasy playoffs, which is kind of not great. So we're going to talk through those big injuries and where fantasy owners can turn to if you suddenly find yourself, say, out of Mike Evans, who pulled his hamstring or injured his hamstring in the first quarter and seems certain to miss at least this coming week. Or maybe you're out Devante Parker, who was now in concussion protocol because he got a concussion against the Jets and didn't return to the game. Or breaking this afternoon was Calvin Ridley, who's missing the rest of the season with an ab injury. So those are 3 wide receivers who are now set to miss time given their injuries that they sustained this week. Jordan, what are some – if you were an owner of one of these guys, what are you doing? What are you looking towards? Are you freaking out? Are you panicking? Where are you turning to in order to help continue your success through the fantasy playoffs?
So this is a pretty crappy time to have players start to go down. One place I looked, especially with Jared Cook, if you have to replace a tight end, and if you haven't already,
Jordan, we're not talking about Jared Cook right now.
I thought we were just talking about all of
them. Oh my God, Jordan! I had this whole little list that we're going to go through, and you are ruining it. Okay. No, go ahead. Talk about Jared Cook. We'll do it out of order.
Well, if you haven't already added him, he's only 11% owned in ESPN leagues. It's Tyler Higbee, because he has 2 straight games of 7 catches for over 100 yards. And it just, especially against Seattle in a game where Los Angeles had to win, Higbee looked like he was the guy that kind of helped the offense start to get going where it needs to go. He can catch passes now, and he's a good run blocker, which they sorely need because their offensive line hasn't been very good. So yeah, if they're, and McVay is a smart guy, relatively speaking. So if he keeps Higbee out there, even if Gerald Everett starts to get to 100%, that he should be the guy going forward if they really want this offense to start rolling.
Yeah. No, and like so you're saying Jared Cook left the Saints game against the 49ers, which was an incredible game, by the way, for anyone who watched that. That was a hell of a shootout. But Cook left with a concussion, so now he's in concussion protocol. So yeah, if you are now out a tight end looking for someone, Tyler Higbee is an excellent guy to go get, given just his rapid ascent in that. And the Rams offense has suddenly looked better while featuring him. And I saw a tweet that they were talking about during the Seahawks-Rams game where Sean McVay is actually using more 11 personnel, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. That's 11, right? Am I right about that? 12. Damn it. So close. 12 personnel, which is not great for me as a Cooper Kupp owner, since Cooper Kupp was not seeing the field as much as he's their slot guy. But it is great for Tyler Higbee, who's been on the field a lot more and has been moving that offense a lot more and becoming a real key part. He's gone over 100 in the last 2 games. So it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. What's funny is Goff will throw to the person who doesn't go very far from the line of scrimmage, and McVay tells him to look at first. And that's now Higbee instead of Kupp. As far as the other tight end options go, a goofy ass one is always going to be Nick Boyle. He has good matchups, and Lamar Jackson is just, friggin' Lamar Jackson. Boyle holding 2 of 3 targets for 10 yards in a score. It's a desperation option, but it is always there if you're just in dire straits. But guys like Ian Thomas, and even Noah Fant, who was largely ignored by Drew Lock in his first start, but then last week had a powwow and they got everything sorted out between the 2 of them. There's a number of good tight end options this week. So yeah, go invest in any of those names and you'll be okay.
Especially since tight ends, seemingly players in general, like when you get players who have emerged, have their little kind of quick emergence of a lot of fantasy production, it tends to be over a 2 to 3 game span. And so it's great that you're not needing these people to give you solid fantasy production for an entire season's worth. It's really just 1 to 2 weeks, because you just need them for the remainder of the season to keep you going through the fantasy playoffs. And so someone who you brought up, Nick, who I really like, is Ian Thomas for the Panthers. As long as Greg Olson's out, I think he's another guy who you can definitely go get and plug in if you're a Jared Cook owner who's suffered from losing him. Now, not to move it back to the schedule that I had originally created and laid out, but let's talk some wide receivers here since we covered the tight ends. Rewind. Take it back. Mike Evans, Devante Parker, Calvin Ridley, all guys who are now out, some for the entire season, some indefinitely. Nick, are there other receivers? Jordan, you missed your opportunity. Nick, are there receivers out there who are you looking to address if you got any of these guys and are floundering?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious group to turn to is just who else is available in the Bucs wide receiving core. This, of course, will be highly contingent upon whether or not Jameis Winston gets good reviews in practice. He broke the thumb, apparently, on his throwing hand, but he's expected to be able to play, which, okay, good for you. I don't know how the fuck you're doing that.
I do have to say quickly, not to interrupt Nick, but I do have to say, when you hear these injuries that like players just kind of toughen up and fight through, and it's one thing to just be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, you could probably survive that. You could probably deal with that. Like, can you imagine gripping a football and like having to get zip on it with a fucking broken thumb? Like, that would be awful. That would be horrible. And so just like a quick shout out to like players who play through injury. You know, I wish that you didn't have to, because there could be more job security, but also shout out to doing that, because I, as a normal person, like stub my toe and I'm like, I'm out for the week. I'm done.
Yeah. I pinched my finger lifting today and like I screamed.
You're like, well, that's it. Done. Also, way to sneak in that you were lifting today. Nice, Nick.
Yeah. I mean, you have to lift 4 days a week. The one that always blows my mind is broken ribs.
Yeah.
Like
that shit hurts to breathe.
With a broken rib. Deshaun Watson had a collapsed lung last year and kept playing. He just took the bus instead of the airplane.
What are we doing?
Anyway, so we got to monitor, we got to monitor his practice reports and see if, if press is like he's more inaccurate than normal, then we probably need to shy away from Bucs receivers. But if he seems to be able to throw the ball well in practice, then we should give long looks to both Justin Watson and Rashaad Penny. I think it's unlikely that both of those guys get picked up. Watson's more of the interior guy. He had more targets last week than Rashaad Penny did, but Penny, I think, has found found the end zone in back-to-back weeks in the last 2 games. Double checking that right now.
I think you're right. I remember that stat being passed around.
No, he didn't. That's my bad. He just had a lot of catches. He just, his target totals have shot up to 6 and 5 for the last 2 weeks, and he's had good yardage and scored once. But anyway, yeah, both of these guys, if Winston is available or if he's good to go, Rashaad Penny would deserve a long look. They're playing Detroit, so that's awesome.
That's a great matchup.
So, yeah, Rashaad Penny and what's his name, Justin Watson would both be good. Justin Watson would both be good options.
I like both of those guys, because you know that you're stepping into an offense that has a high pass load and a high workload. So any number 2 receiver, it's also a huge uptake for Chris Godwin, for those Chris Godwin owners. So good on you there.
Yeah.
I have to bang the table for AJ Brown, who is like under 30% owned. He's coming off of a monster game against Oakland where he went for 153 and 2 touchdowns, and now gets to face Houston, who doesn't really have a secondary, despite what you saw against the Patriots, and the Broncos took them to task. So we talked about how good Ryan Tannehill is. So if you are in need of a wide receiver, if you just lost Calvin Ridley or Mike Evans or Devante Parker, I'm getting AJ Brown, and I am starting him as my wide receiver too, no questions asked.
Yeah, AJ Brown should already be on your roster.
Yeah,
I like that confidence. Yeah, he good for him. I'm glad that this team is getting some stuff going. I mean, there's like it's a fun group.
Yeah, it shows you what like the wrong quarterback can do to an entire offense. And when you finally get, not even the right, because I don't even think Ryan Tannehill is the right quarterback for Tennessee. I think he is a better quarterback than Marcus Mariota and fits this offense much better. And you suddenly see all of these pieces that Tennessee has like built around unlock. AJ Brown, Corey Davis we saw for a hot sec. Corey Davis is kind of yeah, kind of. He's going to be great though when the Patriots trade a 5th round pick for him, and then suddenly he becomes a 1,000+ receiving. It's all I can dream. It's all I can dream.
The Patriots again.
But AJ Brown, I loved him coming in out of the draft, and it's great to see him kind of like have these flashes, and then once he's able to start consistently playing at a high level, he's going to be he's already I think he's like 23 in standard or 24 in PPR, and he's going to be a top 20, top 15 guy if he can get this consistently together.
Some picks, if you're looking to replace Devante Parker, you don't want to go too deep on the Dolphins bench because it's the Dolphins bench, but Isaiah Ford, once Devante Parker went out, ended up having 9 targets that resulted in 6 catches for 92 yards, which is pretty neat. Allen Hurns, if you're super desperate. Cole Beasley is still only 31% owned, but he has a touchdown in 3 straight weeks, which is pretty nice considering Josh Allen really has been playing quite well, especially throwing to John Brown. So it's nice to have him get to somebody else. If Jameis Winston is healthy, like the obvious answer is Chris Godwin getting like 17 targets, but he should be 100% rostered. I like the other 2 Tampa Bay receivers, but if you're in a desperate, like deep league dynasty situation, like I am, maybe Scotty Miller comes back from his hamstring injury. In week 11 against the Saints, he did have 6 targets. He's a rookie, but he profiles like John Brown. So if Jameis Winston can chuck the ball and there are targets to go around and Scotty Miller is healthy, this is a lot of what if.
a lot of stipulations here on Jordan's pick.
There's a lot of asterisks on this pickup, but you never know. If you're throwing darts, it could be an option.
Let's to give one that's a little more concrete and put a bow on all this. Hence, I'm bored. No, DJ Chark's probably missing this next week too. So D.D. Westbrook should see a healthy target volume, and whenever one of these guys has been injured, either Chark or Westbrook, Chris Conley immediately steps onto the streaming radar as a flex option. So keep an eye on them too.
Yeah, those are good guys. Good guys to take note of. Moving on to running backs, we had 2 running backs. One go down for the whole year. The other one's certainly not playing week 15. Darius Geis sprained his MCL and is not playing week 15. I know we've talked lots on this podcast about Washington's medical staff, and it's just absolute shittiness. And it is terrible to watch Darius Geis constantly get injured. And Rashaad Penny tore his ACL. And so he's out for the season. And so if you're looking at running backs, if either of those 2 guys were people you're relying on, if you're looking at running backs to replace them, I think as crazy as it sounds, Adrian Peterson still has fantasy value in this world. We saw it against the Packers. Let me quickly just bring up some stats so that I know what I'm talking about. He had 20 carries, 76 yards, and a touchdown against the Packers. And then now Washington gets to play the Philly, which is going to be tough, but then they have the Giants, which is nice if you've made it that far. So he's someone who I think, he's now going to get the unquestioned workload in Washington. I also like DeAndre Washington. If Josh Jacobs misses continuous time, we saw Washington have a lot of success again filling in for Josh Jacobs as the kind of surprise start against Tennessee. And nice little plug for him. Next week, he gets to play Jacksonville, who just gave up a bajillion points to Austin Eckler. So Washington's in for a really nice workload if Jacobs is out again.
Yeah, Jacobs, he's been banged up all season. Last week it got worse. I think that we should expect DeAndre Washington to be in there. As the lead back, Jalen Richard also kind of got it done. Well, no, Jalen Richard got it done via return yards. So if you have that as an accounting stat, then go for that. But otherwise, yeah, it was pretty much the DeAndre Washington show. I do want to harp on the point you were making about Adrian Peterson earlier. Yeah, he gets to face the Giants next week, but this coming week he has to play the Eagles, who basically erase opposing run game. So I would shy away from him in that one unless you're like totally desperate. I mean, he can get like 50 yards on 20 carries and maybe he'll score. But
right, I mean that's why if you're starting Adrian Peterson against the Eagles, you're relying on him falling in the end zone on like a 2-yard, and that's it. Like he's going to get a ton of touches, but he's not going to get enough yardage to really be a fantasy impact unless he falls in the end zone.
Yeah. Outside of that though, so obviously Chris Carson now is back to being the alpha back in the Seahawks offense with Penny going out. If you are in a league that rewards in any capacity for points per reception, be it half point PPR or full point PPR, Patrick Laird is showing that he is a legit option in that scoring system. He doesn't really get a whole lot of carries, but he does get targeted. So if Laird is available and he's going to get credit for catching passes, go add Patrick Laird. And I was trying to get to the bottom here of the Jets backfield. I guess, well, Le'Veon Bell is supposed to be back, so we don't need to discuss Bilal Powell versus Ty Montgomery.
Versus Ty. I was a little upset that the Jets didn't rely more on Ty Montgomery after like there was a little bit of preseason hype about him, about how much the Jets liked him. I was all ready to be like this sneaky zigging while everyone else is zagging. Everyone else is like, oh, Bilal Powell is going to be the guy clearly to get all the touches with Le'Veon Bell out. And I was like, oh, or maybe this is the Ty Montgomery game. And then it was not. And I was wrong. So that's why you take fantasy advice with a grain of salt.
Not to harp too much on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but
they are your team. They are your favorite team, so we understand.
Love me some Bucks and Jameis being second in the league in touchdowns and like first in interceptions.
Jameis has a real chance of throwing 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, which will be a first time ever in the NFL, which is awesome. I'm here for it.
Risking it all. But if there are some passing targets to go around, there is a chance that those targets can start to go to Dare Ogunbowale. He did end up having 5 catches for 48 yards by the end of the game on Sunday. So that's something to keep an eye out on. And if I'm reading this right, ESPN leagues, Raheem Mostert is still only 24% owned in ESPN leagues. So he is very much available and very much a part of the 49ers offense, even when things devolve into a shootout against like a Saints team. They play Atlanta and the Rams over the next 2 weeks, but both of those games are at home. So that's pretty nice for Mostert to get some home cooking for you in the playoffs.
Yeah. And he's 52% owned in Yahoo League. So he's available.
Yahoo people are more awake.
We had him high on the rankings this week. He owns the backfield now for however long. Kevin Coleman's bad, so that helps.
Always helps when the guy in front of you is bad and you're better than them. Yeah, it tends to work out in your favor. As you're sitting in the fantasy playoffs, ready and pushing to get a win, is there anyone else out there on waivers who you guys are just like, you've got to go get them onto your team because these guys are league winners? Or if we pretty much covered, I feel like we've covered most of the top guys, but I didn't know if you guys had any super sneaky secret guys sitting in the wings.
No, I think we got it. I mean, if you want to take a gamble on like the Chiefs friggin' backfield,
God, no, don't touch that shit.
Be my guess, but yeah,
I'm not playing with that.
One person I'll say who I feel like may have found their way back into the good graces, and it's super up and down, but Deshaun Watson was rooting for this guy earlier this season. That's Kiki QT. That could be something to keep an eye on. I don't think he's a league winner by any means, but he had a lot of targets yesterday. So that depends. Who knows?
Yeah.
I was actually going to say maybe Duke Johnson because he has started to get more work. But Kiki, I'd be a little reticent there. He fumbled, and I don't think that's going to endear him to Bill O'Brien, who already benched him once this year because he's willing to kick his guys to the curb.
That could also be because the Texans somehow just got ran out of their own stadium. I'm sorry. I know that's why Clark isn't on the podcast here tonight, but it was a tough game to watch unfold.
Clark is mourning his Texans right now after walloping the Patriots and then getting walloped by Drew Lock. Drew Lock looking like the best rookie quarterback out there this year. Hot take.
Yeah, I said that we're going to have to watch the Titans in the early wild card game in the playoffs. They might just snatch up the division. They're gunning for a primetime spot.
Oh my God. Oh, this is crazy. This final playoffs run is going to be good. I'm excited. There's going to be some good playoff matchups this year, and I'm here for it. I hate to say it, Jordan, though. I don't know how you're feeling. I feel like the Packers as a 2 seed is I'm not sold.
Honestly, I think that would be an extreme overachievement for a team with a ton of new pieces, basically Devante Adams as their lone wide receiver and a rookie head coach. Like I think that's a lot of things are to combine, and what a lot of Packers fans forget is that this is Matt LaFleur's first spot in the reins, and we've only really seen like one person go and win it all, and that's Doug Peterson in his first stint. So
he's a donkey.
Oh, cool. I didn't get it. Doug Peterson or Matt LaFleur? Ooh, drama.
LaFleur, but Peterson started to do donkey stuff. It gets a little weird. Go back to going forward on fourth all the time, Doug. I don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah, Doug. Hope you're listening to the Eli Bowl. Awesome. Well, there you go. We just figured we'd throw out a quick little pod to help comfort those who got their team just got ravished by injuries this week and need some solace and some guidance. And that's what we're here for. So hopefully some of the guys we were talking about are available on waivers. If they are, go snag them, get them onto your team. And we hope that you have continued playoff success. And if not, again, not our fault. You were the one who chose those people and listened to us. You could have listened to any podcast in the world, and you chose us. So whose mistake is that? Not ours. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all of those places. We are there, the Fake Teams Podcast channel. Follow us on Twitter at RB1 Podcast. Follow myself at Pete M. Rogers. Follow Jordan at Jordan_Smith27 and follow Nick at Ginger__Nick. We will be back at you Thursday for week 15 starts and sits, right? Are we on week 14? Yeah, this is week 15 coming up. I don't know. And until then, peace.